Welcome into a Thursday edition of Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery. Today on the show, the Hawks get their man. Where do the Hawks stack up in the East now after the Murray trade? And Kyle Wright's an all-star. It's all next. It's Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery from Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into this opening day of NBA free agency, Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We ask you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you find us, subscribe to our page. Of course, we want you to leave us a comment. Then we're also free and available to download on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Leave us a 5-star review. Give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. The Hawks got their man. This is crazy. The first time I heard about rumors about Dejounte Murray maybe being involved in any sort of deal to the Atlanta Hawks was literally a week ago tonight when I was at the Hawks draft party. I had a chance to MC and was there, and there was some scuttlebutt and read some things online that maybe the Hawks would be interested and they may be putting a deal together to get Dejounte Murray. And it was, at the time, it seemed a little bit preposterous. Not from the idea of the Hawks going after Murray because he's a terrific player, but why would the San Antonio Spurs move on from Dejounte Murray? What sense would that make? Even if you're in full rebuild mode, why are you getting rid of one of your stars and one of your guys you can control? But that's a them problem, right? And I read where Greg Popovich has said that he gave this trade his blessing, and he kind of joked about the fact that this is going to be like coaching. He coached at like a community college before he got in the NBA coaching ranks back in like the late 80s or early 90s or something like that. He coached at like some kind of community college, right? And that's what he's going to have. He's going to have a whole bunch of nobodies and draft picks. But again, that's a them problem. So the Hawks make a deal. They get Dejounte Murray, all-star point guard, to play along with Trey. They give up Danilo Gallinari. That's the contract part of it to make the money match. And they're going to cut Gallinari and they'll eat $5 million. And then the draft picks, the 2023 first rounder that they got in the deal for Cam Reddish, which is actually from Charlotte. That's top 15 protected. And then they're giving up their, 25 and 27 first round draft picks unprotected. And then they're going to swap draft picks in the year 2026. And then they keep, their first rounder next year. So again, it's 3 draft picks, a swap, and you're talking about a player that wasn't going to be here anyway. When's the last time the Hawks fleeced anybody? When's the last time in Atlanta sports that we feel like we've gotten the massively better part of a trade? I know the Fred McGriff trade kind of jumped to my mind immediately about it. But this is an incredible move for the Atlanta Hawks. And whether you want to say Travis Schlenk, whether you want to say Landry Fields, who tomorrow their positions, I guess, quote unquote, officially change. Fields officially becomes the general manager tomorrow. And then Schlenk is president of basketball operations, even though Fields will report directly to him. Whoever you want to give credit to on this move, this is a big-time move. And let's be honest, even if the Hawks don't do anything else this offseason, this changes up the dynamic of their team greatly. And this allows Trey to, number one, play a little bit more off-ball role, run around and try to get himself open and get some open shots, not have to be so burdened and worn down by the idea of always handling the basketball, always coming up with the basketball, and always having to take on that responsibility. Doesn't mean he won't do some of that, but this certainly makes it a lot easier for Trae Young in this offense, and it gives him a chance to do some things that he's not been able to do offensively for the squad. There are a few times that you make a trade where there's all upside and no downside. That's what this trade is. Oh, but, they're giving away their draft picks. Who cares? I've got 4 draft picks in the last 2 years that may or may not play now. I mean, that's a separate discussion. We talked about Nate McMillan yesterday. They have plenty of draft picks. They have plenty of guys that fill out their roster that they've drafted. Now you got to play and develop those guys. All right. We'll talk more about this in just a second. But I want to mention my friends here at LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Look, if you're hiring, and in my previous life, I was a guy who hired people. I always used LinkedIn Jobs. It makes it easier to grow your team, helps you find the people that you want to interview. It's faster, it's free. I've used them a million times. And when I tell you that I've used them a million times, I've hired hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over my career, and I always use LinkedIn. These guys are great. They're easy. The website is easy to navigate. I'm telling you, there's nothing easier than getting on with LinkedIn. You can set all kinds of parameters. You can reach 810 million people with this. You can do anything that you need to do. You want a broad focus, narrow focus on your candidates. All of that is available at LinkedIn. And when you go to LinkedIn Jobs, you're going to find the best candidates you want to talk to faster. And by the way, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn every week. So you're always finding all kinds of available candidates, all kinds of people that you want to talk to. So here's what we got. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnMLB, LOCKEDONMLB, to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply, but I'm telling you, you're going to be completely satisfied when you head over to LinkedIn and get on their website. It's easy to use, and you're going to love it. But even if the Hawks do nothing else, this is a huge move within the Eastern Conference. Not just the Hawks, but it definitely changes up the dynamic of some of the balance of power in the East. And we'll talk about that coming up in the next segment. But even if there are no other moves, and I think there are going to be some other things, we'll see. We keep hearing about John Collins is going to be on the move, or this, that, and the other. Okay, I mean, sounds like DeAndre Ayton, honestly, is going to end up in Indianapolis, if you can believe that. Indiana Pacers are going to probably be the team that ends up landing DeAndre Ayton. They've got the cash, the capital, and pieces and parts and everything like that that would make sense for Phoenix to make a move. So a lot of people are leaning that way now. So I don't know who that player is. And the things I've heard about John Collins are that they want a ready-made win-now player for Collins. They're not just settling. They're not going to move John Collins just for the sake of saying, well, we got to get rid of him and he doesn't fit in with our offense and blah, 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 blah. They ain't going to do that. Not giving up on John Collins just to get some ham and egger, Harrison Barnes, for God's sakes. Jiminy Christmas. I mean, it still makes my head just hurt thinking about, why would I swap Harrison Barnes for John Collins? But anyway, so they want a ready-made win-now kind of player if they're going to trade Collins. If they don't, this team is still exponentially better than they were the day before. And what do we always say about general managing and front office personnel? Is my team better today than it was yesterday? Am I going to be better tomorrow than I was today? Well, the Hawks are, and they've got themselves a high-caliber player. And it's all of the best of both worlds. You gave up a guy, first off, that you were going to get rid of anyway. They were going to move on from Gallinari. You basically buy him out. He's got $5 million that you have to pay out to him, and then you literally can move on from him and pick up some salary cap space. So you're going to move on from Gallinari. You're giving up a whole bunch of first-round draft picks that, honestly, we're at a point where we're in win-now mode. We haven't developed some of the young guys that we have, and let's hope that that kind of changes, but I don't need a whole bunch more draft picks. I've got my stars in place now, and I've added a star who defends and can score and can alleviate Trae Young from having to do everything. It's the only two guys on a team that averaged 20 points and 9 assists last year. So this is win, 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 win all the way around for the Hawks with no downside. Now it's up to Nate to coach these guys up and get the most out of them. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about where the Hawks now kind of shift power-wise in the Eastern Conference. It's Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.